The story you are about to hear is not a fairy tale, nor a distant legend. It is the real, documented, and extraordinary journey of a man who walked to the ends of the earth, faced hatred, slander, and absolute isolation, and yet planted a seed that would change the history of the East. Prepare to meet the man who carried the cross to the heart of the Mongol Empire, challenging the borders of the known world and the limits of human endurance. John of Montecorvino was born in the year 1247 in the small town of Montecorvino, Rovella, nestled in the hills of the Campania region in southern Italy. It was a time of great and profound transformations. Europe, which for centuries had been turned inward, was beginning to awaken to the vast and mysterious world beyond its borders. The Crusades had opened routes to the Middle East, and the stories of travelers and merchants returning with silks, spices, and tales of vast empires ignited the imagination of an entire generation. In his youth, John did not seem destined for a religious life. He served as a soldier and civil magistrate. He knew the harsh discipline of arms, the weight of armor, and the complexity of human laws. He witnessed power struggles, injustices in courts, and the fragility of peace built by force. But his restless and insightful heart longed for a greater justice, and a peace that swords could never conquer. In 1280, at the age of 33, the same age at which Christ gave his life on the cross, John made a radical decision. He left behind a promising military career, abandoned the courts, and gave his life entirely to God. He joined the Order of Friars Minor, becoming a humble Franciscan. As a Franciscan, John did not seek the comfort and security of European monasteries. The spirit of St. Francis of Assisi burned in him with a missionary urgency. He wanted to bring the light of the gospel where it had not yet shone, to peoples who had never heard of Christ's love. His sharp intellect, diplomatic experience gained in the courts, and above all, his unwavering faith soon caught the attention of the highest church authorities. In 1272, even before his formal ordination, he had already been entrusted by the Byzantine Emperor Michael VIII Palaiologos with a delicate mission to negotiate with Pope Gregory X the reunification of the Eastern and Western churches, separated by the Great Schism. But John's true calling was even further east, in the arid and dangerous lands of Asia. Between 1275 and 1286, he tirelessly dedicated himself to preaching in the Near and Middle East. He traveled through Armenia and Persia, immersing himself in cultures profoundly different from his own. He learned new languages, understood local customs, and prepared his spirit for the colossal challenges ahead. He was not a tourist. He was an ambassador of Christ, forging his character in the heat of the desert and the complexity of interreligious relations. In 1286, an extraordinary event changed the course of his life and the history of missions. An unusual request arrived in Rome. Argun, the powerful Mongol ruler of Persia, the Ilkhan, sent an Nestorian monk named Rabban Bar Salma as his envoy to the Pope. The request was clear and surprising, that Catholic missionaries be sent to the court of the great Khan, Kublai Khan, the supreme emperor of the Yuan dynasty, in distant and mythical China. It was said that the Mongol Emperor, grandson of the fearsome Genghis Khan, was a man of open mind, tolerant of religions, and sympathetic to Christianity. Pope Nicholas IV, a man of broad vision, saw in this a providential opportunity, a door opened by God himself for the evangelization of the greatest empire the world had ever seen. In 1289, he entrusted John of Montecorvino with the most important, bold, and dangerous mission of his life, to travel to China as papal legate with apostolic authority to establish the Catholic Church in the heart of the Mongol Empire. At 42 years old, an age when many men of his time were already thinking of rest, John set out for the unknown. He carried official letters from the Pope to the Mongol rulers, to the King of Armenia, to the Patriarch of the Jacobites, and to other Eastern authorities. His traveling companions were few but brave, the Dominican friar Nicholas of Pistoia and the experienced merchant Peter of Lucalongo. The journey was epic, challenging the limits of human endurance. They traveled overland through treacherous mountains and relentless deserts to Tabriz, in Persia, which was then the main city of Western Asia. From there, the land route became impassable due to local wars, forcing them to descend to the sea. In 1291, they boarded precarious ships bound for India. In the region of Madras, in southern India, known as the land of St. Thomas, due to the tradition that the apostle had preached and died there, John stayed for 13 long months. He did not waste time. He preached tirelessly and baptized about 100 people, establishing a small Catholic community. But India also exacted a terrible price. His faithful companion, the Dominican friar Nicholas of Pistoia, fell ill and died, leaving John even more alone in his mission. From India, John wrote letters to Europe, providing the first detailed and accurate account of the Coromandel coast made by a Western European. His geographical and cultural descriptions were invaluable, but he could not linger. His final destination, the mission entrusted to him by the Pope, was China. Traveling again by sea, facing storms and pirates, John finally arrived in Khanbalik, Beijing, in the year 1294. He had crossed the known world, a journey that lasted 5 years of indescribable trials. But upon arriving at the imperial capital, devastating news awaited him. Kublai Khan, the emperor who had requested the missionaries and who could have been his great protector, had just died. The dragon's throne now belonged to his grandson, Timur Khan, the emperor Chengzong. Timur Khan did not convert to Christianity, maintaining the traditions of his ancestors. However, he did not hinder John's work. On the contrary, the wisdom, humility, and deep spirituality of the Franciscan missionary soon won the trust and respect of the new Mongol ruler. John was granted permission to preach and settle in the capital. It seemed the path was finally clear. However, the true opposition, the cruelest and most painful persecution, did not come from the pagan emperor, nor from Buddhist monks or Confucian scholars. It came from those who called themselves brothers in the faith. In China, there was already an established community of Nestorian Christians. They followed doctrines condemned by the Catholic Church centuries before, but had found refuge and prosperity in the East. They held great influence at the Mongol court, occupied important positions, and saw the arrival of the papal legate, John of Montecorvino, as a direct threat to their power, their religious monopoly, and their privileges. And here, John of Montecorvino's story teaches us a profound and painfully timely lesson about the challenges we face in our own time. The Nestorians did not debate theology with John. They did not seek dialogue or truth. They used the coward's weapon, the tool of those without arguments, slander. They spread terrible and systematic rumors throughout the court and city. They said John was not a true envoy of the Pope, but an impostor, a dangerous spy sent by Western powers to destabilize the empire. Worse still, they invented a macabre story. They accused him of having murdered the true papal legate during the journey, stealing his credentials and the rich gifts intended for the emperor. For 5 long and anguished years, John lived under the crushing weight of these lies. Slander is a slow poison. It corrodes trust, destroys reputations, and isolates the victim. John was repeatedly dragged before local courts, suffered indescribable public humiliations, and faced constant death threats. He was completely alone, thousands of miles from home, without lawyers, without the support of his order, without anyone to defend him, before a justice system that did not understand. Think about this for a moment, bringing this reality into our days. How many times in our own lives are we victims of malicious gossip? Lies spread on social media at the speed of a click. Unjust accusations at work, school, or even within our communities. Modern defamation, cancel culture, is a deep pain that isolates, depresses, and often destroys entire lives. We live in an age of misinformation, where truth seems less important than the narrative that generates the most outrage. How did John of Montecorvino react to this storm of hatred and lies? He did not respond with hatred. He did not give in to despair or bitterness. He did not abandon his mission, fleeing back to the safety of Europe. He chose the harder path, the path of the saints. He continued to work in silence, with absolute integrity and unwavering faith. He knew that truth is the child of time, and that God is the supreme judge. While slanders boiled around him, he built genuine relationships, learned the complex local language, and focused on what really mattered, serving the most needy and preaching the gospel through the example of his own life. His resilience was not passivity. It was an active strength, based on the certainty of his innocence and trust in divine providence. Eventually, the light of truth dispelled the darkness of lies. The malicious plot of the Nestorians was uncovered. A person involved in the slanders, touched by remorse or pressured by circumstances, confessed the truth to the authorities. The Mongol Emperor Temür Khan, who had already observed John's impeccable conduct, publicly recognized the missionary's innocence and righteousness. With the relentless justice of the Mongols, the emperor banished the false accusers and their families from the region. John's patience, integrity, and faith had triumphed over malice. Freed from the chains of false accusations, John's work flourished in an extraordinary and unprecedented way. The emperor, now a declared protector, granted him favors and full freedom of action. In 1299, John built the first Catholic church in Beijing, a monumental historic milestone. In 1305, with imperial support, he built a second church, strategically located right in front of the emperor's palace, complete with workshops and housing for 200 people. But John was not just a builder of stone and wood buildings. He was a builder of souls, a true spiritual father. He saw the misery around him and acted. He bought the freedom of about 150 boys, sons of pagan parents living in extreme poverty, aged between 7 and 11 years. He rescued them from slavery and misery, sheltered them, fed them, and instructed them. He taught them Latin and Greek, passed on the Catholic faith, and formed a magnificent choir that sang the psalms and hymns of the church. The pure and angelic singing of these boys echoed through the streets of Beijing and enchanted the emperor himself, who often opened the windows of his palace to listen. To truly reach the hearts of the people and the elite, John knew he needed to speak their language. With Herculean intellectual effort, he learned the Uyghur language, which was widely used by the Mongol ruling class in Yuan Dynasty China. He did not stop there. He translated the New Testament and the Psalms into this language, making the Word of God accessible and understandable to those he had come to serve. He adapted the liturgy, taught Gregorian chant, and prepared the ground for the faith to take deep roots in the local culture. The fruits of his work were abundant. By the year 1305, John had baptized about 6,000 people. Among his most notable and influential converts was Prince George of the Angats, a tribal ruler. Prince George, who had previously followed Nestorianism, embraced the Catholic faith with fervor, received minor orders, and brought much of his people into the church. He even built a beautiful church in his capital, which he called the Roman Church. The conversion of Prince George was a monumental triumph for John's mission. For 11 long years, John worked completely alone in the vastness of China. In his moving letters sent to the Pope and his Franciscan brothers, he expressed deep longing for fraternal communion, the weight of loneliness, and the immensity of the task before him. "I am old and gray," he wrote, "more from work and tribulations than from age." Finally, in 1304, his prayers were answered. The German friar Arnold of Cologne arrived in Beijing to help him, bringing relief and renewing his strength. News of John's incredible and almost unbelievable success finally reached Rome. Pope Clement V was amazed by the reports of thousands of baptisms, churches built, and the conversion of princes. In recognition of his heroic work, in 1307, the Pope made a historic decision. He appointed John of Montecorvino as the first Archbishop of Beijing, Cambalik, and granted him the title of Summus Archiepiscopus, the chief archbishop of all territories under Mongol rule. To consecrate him and establish a formal ecclesiastical hierarchy in China, the Pope sent 7 Franciscan bishops. The journey, however, remained a test of survival. Of the 7 bishops sent, only 3, Gerard, Peregrine, and Andrew of Perugia, survived the dangers of the journey and arrived alive in China in 1308. They solemnly consecrated John as archbishop, officially establishing the institutional presence of the Catholic Church in the Far East. Under the wise and tireless leadership of Archbishop John, the mission continued to grow and expand. New churches and missions were founded, not only in the capital Beijing, but also in the important port city of Zaitan, modern Quanzhou, which became a suffragan diocese. John continued to translate liturgical texts, ordain local clergy, and build a bridge of faith, culture, and mutual respect between West and East, a bridge that would last for decades. John of Montecorvino gave his soul to God in Beijing around the year 1328, at the age of 81. He had spent more than 34 uninterrupted years in China, never returning to his beloved Italy, never seeing his family or childhood friends again. He gave his entire life, every drop of his sweat and every beat of his heart, for the people he had come to love as his own flock. His death was a national mourning event. He was mourned not only by the thousands of Christians he had brought to the faith, but also by pagans, Mongols, and Chinese, who recognized in him a man of extraordinary virtue. He was revered as a holy man, a true servant of God, whose kindness transcended religious and cultural barriers. The mission he founded with such sacrifice survived for more than 40 years after his death, until the fall of the Mongol Yuan dynasty and the rise of the Ming dynasty in 1368 led to the expulsion of foreigners and the closing of China to the outside world, temporarily ending this glorious chapter in the history of missions. The Catholic Church venerates John of Montecorvino as a servant of God, recognizing the heroism of his virtues. His life is a powerful and timeless testimony of what a single man, armed only with unwavering faith, indomitable courage, and unconditional love, can achieve against all odds. The story you have just heard is not only a bright page in the annals of the past. It is a crystal clear mirror for our days, a spiritual survival manual for the modern world. In a society where truth is often distorted by convenient narratives, where slander and cancel culture travel at the speed of light through social networks, and where the Christian faith is often marginalized or ridiculed, John's example shines like a beacon in the storm. He teaches us with the eloquence of his own life that uncompromising integrity is the best and most lasting defense against lies. That patience, resilience, and silent, honest work are infinitely stronger than the hysterical cries of accusers. He shows us that building relationships based on respect and charity can turn enemies into allies. And above all, he proves to us that even when we feel completely alone, isolated, and misunderstood, God is working silently through us to accomplish extraordinary things, opening paths where before there were only shadows. The story you have just heard is not just about the past, it is a seed for the future. Pasa. Saints are not on a pedestal just to be admired. They are an invitation, a call for us also to be heroes of faith in our time, in our place. If this message has touched your heart, do not keep it to yourself. The world needs light. The world needs hope. Be the bearer of this light. Share this video, subscribe so you don't miss any story. And above all, pray with us that more hearts may be touched. Together we are the living church. Together we keep the flame of faith burning. Lord God, Father of infinite goodness, who inspired your servant John of Montecorvino to leave his homeland, his comforts and securities to face countless dangers in order to bring the saving light of the gospel to the distant peoples of the East. Grant us, we ask you, the same indomitable courage and missionary zeal that inflamed his heart. Help us, Lord, to endure the slanders, injustices, and adversities of our time with the same patience, meekness, and integrity that he demonstrated, always trusting unwaveringly in your divine providence and the strength of your truth. May our lives, following the example of your faithful servant John, be a living, joyful, and transformative testimony of your love, so that all